It's Friday, November 14th, and Reena Virk is under a bridge. Just minutes before this, a couple of people that she would have considered friends linked arms with her, and they said, let's go under the bridge. Let's go smoke a cigarette. Let's go hang out. The energy was really weird. It kind of felt forced, and she was uncomfortable because she had heard that somebody was going to get beat up at this party tonight. You know, kids talk like that. But these are her friends, you know, some of which who are also in foster care with her. And they're kind of bad kids. And they just kind of link arms and they take her down under the bridge. And now she's surrounded by like 20 of them. And they're all staring at her. They're all surrounding her because they know that she's the center of attention right now. She knew that there were some issues between her and some other girls in the friend group, but it was just teenage banter. They were just mad at each other. They were just going to like duke it out, whatever. But this is weird because there's so many people watching, spectating. And there's this other girl that's staring at Reena with just a sadistic, almost grin. Like she's excited about what's going to happen. And maybe there's a point where Reena knows what's about to happen. One of the girls, that's kind of the leader of the group, asks her, why have you been talking shit about me? I know you have. And Reena's probably over here thinking, okay, well, you know, if it's about to go down, it's about to go down. And I'm going to say what I feel. And she tells this girl that she's a bitch and she doesn't care. And that girl goes and takes her cigarette and stares at her. And she puts it out in the middle of Reena's face. And then that's when all the kids start to attack her. But that is not how Reena Virk died. Today's case is just a doozy. I mean, I'm just going to warn you ahead of time. You're going to feel anger at almost every turn from beginning to end, okay? But you guys know, on Sinister, I am here to try to give you all of the connecting pieces that make cases make a little more sense. I'm going to try my best, but this is just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. And I mean, we know that kids do dumb stuff. We know that kids try to look tough in front of other kids. And we know some kids just come from broken homes. But what about the kids that didn't come from broken homes? Kids that were handed everything and they still turn out to be absolute demons. Well, that's what we're diving into a bit today in the case of Reena Virk. If you didn't know, there was recently a Hulu series that came out about this called Under the Bridge. It's a couple episodes long, not a promotion, but just a heads up, it's actually really fantastic. I mean, when I dove into this case and started reading everything after watching the show, it was very interesting how much of the show was true to life because it was based on a book of someone who was pretty involved with all of the kids. Because I'm sure a lot of you guys haven't seen the show, I'm going to refrain from referencing the show very much. I also just want to note before we get into this one, notice Reena's parents through this entire story because they just seem like some of the most kind, patient, understanding people that I've ever looked at that were like part of a case. And it's just so fascinating to me how strong they are, how kind, how forgiving. It's just it's a lot. And this one was just like a really powerful case to me. But first, as you guys know, we have a team now of researchers and writers, and Sinister is powered by sponsors just to keep us going week over week. Today's sponsor is IQ Bar, and they have mastered protein bars and instant mushroom coffee. I know, we all want to try having a little protein bar in the morning. Like maybe you're on a diet, maybe you need something on the go, but if you're anything like me, they're usually not good, and IQ Bar has figured it out. I mean, these bars are for your brain and your body. I don't feel hungry afterwards. I feel like this is something that can sustain me for a couple of hours, and also I'm not fighting my way through eating it. It's like the first protein bar that I'm like, oh, okay, this one's good. This one's good. The cool thing is they also have zero hydration drinks, they have instant coffees, and you can kind of just mix and match everything on the website and figure out what flavors you like and what you need to get your day started. And get this, you can mix and match everything, or you can try the ultimate sampler pack, which has 7 IQ bar flavors, 4 IQ mix flavors, and 4 IQ Joe flavors. That's the instant coffee. And of course, I'm gonna give you a discount at the end, but I just had to tell you about the product. I mean, look, it's got over 10,000 5-star reviews. You can't go wrong with that. Now, the coffee, it's a little hardcore. 200 milligrams of caffeine, also packed with lion's mane just to keep you focused and going through the entire day. Now, for me, it's a bit of caffeine. So guess what? I get 2 cups in one package. It's a win no matter what, right? So whether you want to go on the website and pick and choose which items you want to try, or you want to just go for the sampler pack, I am going to give you 20% off. Now, you got to whip out your phone for this because you actually got to text Sinister to the number 64,000. That's 64000. Just text Sinister and you'll get your 20% off. And don't worry, you don't have to get the sampler pack. You just get 20% off of whatever you pick. So text Sinister to 64,000. There's a lot of kids involved in this story, unfortunately. But we're just going to start with Kelly Ellard because she kind of came from the most put together home. So we had the most information on her. You know, when she got involved, of course, her entire family was like, oh my God, Kelly would never, as they always do, right? Until we dive into what these kids like to do behind the scenes and we realize, oh my God, this is like a little demon. This is a monster, okay? Kelly's all of them, every single one of them, okay? But we're going to start with Kelly. And then I'll walk you through everybody else. Also, as a reminder, whenever we have complex stories that involve a lot of people, you might hear me reminding you a lot of like who each person is, because I know for some people it's a bit hard to follow, but some of you guys, you got it. You understand all the names and who's who, but just a reminder, I might be giving you those little like nudges so you know exactly who I'm talking about. So this story takes place in Canada. And Kelly Ellard was born to Susan and Lawrence Edward, and they were genuinely a pretty good family. Her mom worked in City Hall. There's not a whole lot of information about her dad, but Kelly also was very, very close to her grandma as well. You know, this is the type of family where mom and dad are getting together and they're like, okay, let's go to grandma's house, da da da. You know, like they were put together. It wasn't just a complete home in shambles, right? Now, Helen, Kelly's grandma, says Kelly was always a nice girl. She liked animals. She liked to write poetry, which, can I just say, for me personally, poetry is kind of a red flag because that was my first sign of depression. I was looking back at some poems I wrote when I was like 8 or 9 and I was like, oh my God, like she was going through it. So I don't know, read your kids' poetry, because if it's not all haiku, sunshines, and rainbows, they could be trying to tell you something. But Kelly liked to write a lot of poetry, and the first big bump in her life came when her parents got a divorce. It was very hard on her. She was only 8 years old. Divorce is, of course, such a hard thing on children. And then it also just comes down to, like, how do the parents handle it? A lot of times, parents don't even have the bandwidth to explain things to their child, or they don't know the right things to say, especially if it's a messy divorce and they're just all out war hating their, spouse, or kind of fighting over the kid as a form of a custody battle. It just, goes all over the place, and kids can get really sad. They can develop really, really low self-esteem. They can become angry. It's a whole lot, but it all depends on how the parents handle it, if they can, right? Also, sometimes when kids can't rationalize bad things that happen to them, they sometimes go down this path of, well, I'm bad. I'm bad now. I'm from a broken home. I'm from this. I need to talk to more people that resonate with that. And that's how she meets this girl named Nicole Cook. Nicole Cook and Kelly had been best friends since elementary school. They met each other pretty early and they bonded. Nicole was something that Kelly saw in her life as consistent, and she would do anything to keep it. Nicole was a very important relationship to her, especially after everything fell apart with her family. Now, as they got a little bit older, Nicole also had some issues. She ran away from home a lot. She was always rebelling, to the point that she ended up in foster care. But, Nicole's personality was, she was very confident. She was very slim. She was very pretty. She was kind of in charge. She and Kelly were best friends, but Nicole was the leader. She was like the pretty, prim, popular bad girl leader. And like, this isn't just like the bully type of bad girl, even though she kind of is. Like, people just liked her. They wanted to be around her. They gravitated towards her. Like, if Nicole was giving you her attention, you were cool. Another girl in this friend group was named Missy Pleach. Now, Missy's interesting because when this case broke, all of the kids, their names were kind of sealed, but it seems like Missy had a lot of remorse about how everything happened. And so, later on, she started talking. Like, there's, interviews from like the press or actually on video of Missy kind of explaining what this group was like. Missy came from a very large family. She had 12 siblings. And not only that, she was the youngest. She was child number 13. Missy's mother had kids with several different dads, and everything was just kind of all over the place. She was not getting any of the love and attention that she needed. Missy actually said in an interview, I was the baby, so I didn't have anybody at home. By the time I was born, my mother was so worn out that she was just too tired from all the other kids. At the time, it was the greatest thing because I could just go do whatever I wanted and she never said anything about it. I drank a lot, I beat people up, and I stole things. That's what these kids were. They were the bad kids. Missy, the girl from the big family, Kelly Ellard, the girl from the quote good family but went through the divorce, and Nicole, they were kind of a unit, but they were just always partying. They were drinking. They were kind of like the misfit kids, but they considered themselves cool and it felt good at the time. But they were sad. These kids were all miserable. So in the midst of Missy, Kelly, and Nicole all partying with these other kids, just living this kind of lifestyle, they end up meeting this girl named Reena Virk. And Reena, oh my God, Reena was born into a tough situation. Fitting in, especially when you're younger, is just so wildly important. I mean, at least we feel like it is. So Reena was the daughter of Indian immigrants named Manjeet and Suman Virk. So her dad was a first-generation immigrant from India, and they moved over to View Royal in British Columbia. And here's the thing. They were also practicing as Jehovah's Witnesses. So they're like a minority within a religious minority in Canada. And they were true to their religion through and through. They loved this. They were dedicated, which that's great. I totally get it. For a kid, for Reena, oh my God, this was so hard. This was so hard. She felt like kind of like an outcast. Even though her family was dedicated to the religion, she kind of felt like they didn't really belong there. And then also she goes to school and also feels like an outsider. Another thing that affected Reena too was they were practicing Jehovah's Witnesses, which means they didn't celebrate any birthdays. So Reena just didn't feel like a normal kid. She didn't feel important. She didn't feel like she belonged. And it's very, very confusing, especially when you're living in a very religious home and your parents do everything through religion. And so you don't get any clear answers for the way that you're feeling about things. It's kind of just like give it to God vibes, you know? And so just thinking about this, I really, really, really feel for Reena. And when she started going to school, she also started getting bullied quite a bit because she had excessive body hair. This was just like in her genetics. And not only did she have kind of more excessive body hair, she had some patterns that were more frequent in guys, like where her facial hair would grow in. And so the kids at school were making fun of her. So she goes home and she's upset about this and tries to talk to her parents, and they're like, no, you can't shave, you can't do anything. And I mean, she's a 14-year-old girl. Honestly, bro, this is so serious, man. They wouldn't let her do anything about it. They told her to just accept herself and love herself. But then she's over here getting bullied at school. I mean, bro, Reena is not having a good time. Things are just not getting better for Reena at school, and she wants so badly to be popular, to be accepted, to be liked. And so she realizes she has to make a change. Now, a lot of times when kids feel like they can't fit in emotionally, culturally, find a group that they belong to, they'll turn to subcultures. For me personally, I think that because I had like some issues being like mixed in like a predominantly white school, I turned to like a goth subculture because I'm like, wait, I just have to wear black and I can mosey in and get accepted here. And they're like, yeah, come on in. So subcultures are interesting because although they can be very extreme, they're very welcoming for kids that are lost. And Reena kind of dives into this hip hop party subculture. And that's where she meets Nicole, Kelly, and Missy. Now, Reena is a good kid, okay? She's always been raised to be kind, polite, mostly has hung around her parents. You know, she had some friends growing up and whatnot, but she's switching over, right? And it's kind of easy to switch over when you decide that you're going to be bad because all you have to do is drink stuff you're not supposed to drink, you know, fold your arms, be a little quiet, and just go with the flow, right? So that's what Reena's doing. She's kind of a good girl, but she's blending in by deciding to be bad and just choosing to make all the bad decisions. And it's like, cool, she's in. Now she's doing all the motions, but the other girls still kind of ostracize her a little bit. Missy is actually the person that's the kindest to her, the girl that came from the large family. Missy seemed like she was able to speak the most to Reena's emotional state. While Reena kind of weaved into the friend group with Kelly and Nicole, Missy said that Reena would still get bullied at times, but she would kind of hold it in. She would act really, really tough. She never asked for support. She just kind of like took the hit and kept going. And I think that that gave her like a little bit of street cred because it's like, oh, okay, she's cool. You know, when kids are bullying you like that, they want to see if they can break you. And Reena didn't break, at least not in front of any of them. She didn't break. Another kid that I want to introduce into this story is a boy. His name is Warren Glowatsky. And Warren also came from a bad home. All of these kids came from just like textbook bad homes. His mom was a severe alcoholic that was never around. And his dad was somebody that was kind of just chasing skirts. And he had moved to California to settle down with another woman. And Warren had a girlfriend at the time. So he didn't want to move to go be with his dad. He just decided to stay in Canada, even though he's just in high school, you know, keep seeing his girlfriend. And then he was also living with his best friend, a kid named Chris Fox. Now, something interesting about Warren is he's in this like, you know, gangster party lifestyle that they're doing. We'll get more into the gangster aspect of it, but you know, he's got his little bandanas on. He's always listening to Biggie. And also he's 5'5". Now, we love a short king, okay? But I just want to mention this because everyone in this group is trying to act really tough. And not only is Warren a guy of smaller stature, everyone said he had a baby face. I mean, he was a kid too, but he looked like a little baby. And so Warren kind of felt like he had something to prove so that people didn't think like he was a weenie in this group. Okay, so I know there's a lot of names and I just want to catch you up. Just a reminder, we have Missy Pleach, which is one of the bad girls, the one that came from the bigger home and was the 13th child. We have Kelly Ellard, the child of divorce that was going through a rough time, and she is best friends with Nicole Cook. Nicole Cook is the leader of the group, pretty, popular, da-da-da-da. Kelly and Nicole are two peas in a pod. It's interesting too because Nicole was always kind of like doing her thing and she was best friends with Kelly, but Kelly was like almost unnaturally attached to Nicole, very protective of her, cannot lose this friendship. This friendship with Nicole for Kelly was like a defining life friendship. It defined who Kelly was, and like she was not going to let anything get in the way of this. So when Reena comes into the picture and she's, you know, becoming friends with all of the girls, Kelly doesn't like when Nicole and Reena get along at all. Now, they're not besties by any stretch of the imagination, but any time that Reena kind of messes up, Kelly is the first to point it out and make sure everybody knows Reena's not cool. She's really not that cool. So sometimes because Reena really wanted to fit in, she would lie about certain things with her family or things about her life just to make herself seem a little bit cooler. And if Kelly caught her in a lie, she would tell everybody and try to really, really put Reena down, but would also kind of sometimes be nice to her face. I think she felt like she needed to have a little bit of control in the situation. So she needed to keep Reena around and make her think that she was an ally, but like she really didn't like her. Now, these kids are always out partying, whether it's Wednesday or whether it's Saturday night, and Reena is fully in it. I mean, regardless of whether the kids are making fun of her or attacking her, she's used to it. She wants this lifestyle because it makes her feel a little more at home. Also, she's drinking, she's smoking, and she just feels like she's part of a group finally. This is what she's always wanted. But she wants more. She wants more freedom. And this is actually one of the turns in the story that is probably going to make you pretty mad. I know you need to go to the doctor, but you don't have time to call the receptionist. You don't have time to figure out what kind of doctor you need to go to. You don't have time to figure out who takes your insurance. I get it. This is half the reason why it takes me forever to get to a doctor, even though we need to be taking care of ourselves. You should be going a few times a year with different types of specialists. And hey, ZocDoc makes that super easy. You can get next day, sometimes even same day appointments depending on your area just by getting on the app, putting in your insurance information and your city, and boom, dozens of doctors ready and available for you. And on top of that, you can read real customer reviews of anybody that you're planning to visit just to know exactly what you're getting into. So hey, skip the receptionist, skip stressing about the insurance, and go straight to a provider that takes your insurance and can get you in on a timeline that works for you. The best part about it is it's free and they make cancellations easy. So if you book something that feels right, but a couple days later you're like, oh man, I can't make that, it's no problem. With just enough notice, you can cancel and get back in there whenever you're ready. Yeah, I know, I said it's free, but you should still use our code so they know exactly where you're coming from. So go to ZocDoc.com/Sinister. That's ZocDoc.com/Sinister. You can download the app for free today and get in with a top-rated doctor before you know it. Reena's parents were very patient and they were understanding that she was going through a period where she needed friends, she needed companionship. But they knew that these kids were not good. They were not good people. And they warned her and sometimes even prohibited her from going out. This probably made Reena feel like she wasn't cool because the other kids were in foster care. So they could kind of do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted. So sometimes she would stay out late. Sometimes she wouldn't go home. And on one occasion, she actually just straight up ran away from home for a couple of days. And in 1996, she went to the Canadian Ministry of Families and Children and said she needed refuge, and they just took her in. The next part is a little fuzzy because it's not entirely clear how Reena got the idea, but while she was in this care, she ends up telling the foster system that her father had sexually and physically abused her and that she no longer wanted to live in the home. The Virks, Reena's parents, they said that the organization didn't conduct an investigation or even question them. They just kind of took it at face value and then let Reena live in the foster home. And oh my God, I tell you, these people have the patience of a saint because they later came out and said, you know what, we think that the other girl, her dad says this did not happen. And Reena would later go on to recant the allegations when she wanted to come home. But the Virks were very patient with this because they said that they thought, we don't know exactly why Reena did this. We think that some of the other girls told her, well, if you want to, get away from home and you want to come live in foster care with us, then all you have to do is say X, Y, and Z. Her parents stood together as a unit and they said, when Reena wants to tell the truth and come home, we'll be here. So they were very hurt by the allegations, of course, but they always kept their door open for her whenever she wanted to come back. Now, even though Reena has this newfound freedom and flexibility to go out and party and drink whenever she wants, it's not a good time. She is still in foster care. You know, she had this love and warmth back home that she didn't really understand or appreciate that much at the time. And when things got tough at the foster home, because she was still getting bullied by the other kids, she was still the butt of their jokes all the time, she would go back home. She would just pop back in every now and then. Now, there was one day in particular where Reena was hanging out with Nicole, the popular girl. We're not sure exactly what happened, but I can only imagine. You remember how I said before that Reena, when she's the butt of a joke, she kind of just holds it in and doesn't say anything? Well, that still does something to you, you know? Just because you're tough in front of your peers doesn't mean that it's not hurtful or you're not upset or angry or something else behind the scenes. And so on this particular day, Nicole had come over to hang out with Reena, and she accidentally left her phone book, which is like her little address book with all of her contacts, everyone that, you know, basically all of her friends' phone numbers written down in a little book. And she left it at Reena's house. Missy and Reena say that this was a joke. Nicole took it a completely different way, but basically Reena takes the phone book and she starts calling up all of Nicole's friends, and she's like, hey, Nicole's this, Nicole that, da 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 da. And she's like saying some pretty outlandish stuff, some stuff that's believable, some stuff that's just far out. But overall, she's spreading rumors directly to Nicole's friends. Now, I can't speak, of course, to the full intention of this, why she did it. Was it a joke? Was she mad? Was she trying to get even? I mean, it's not like she called and disguised her voice or anything. Like, she was calling as herself. Everybody knew that it was Reena making these calls. And also, this is just like straight up teenage girl stuff, because later on Nicole did an interview and she said stupid stuff like, my eyes were actually contacts and my boobs were fake. I couldn't understand why she would do that. I was angry. Now, even though you and I think that these rumors are very, very stupid, this is so silly, this is so teenage girl, I'm sure Nicole was like, are you my friend? What is this? Like, it created some type of rivalry. Everything was kind of kickstarted. Now, something else was going on behind the scenes as well. Missy Pleach, one of the three, remember there's Nicole, Kelly, and Missy. Missy was the one that was the closest to Reena, and there was a rumor going around. Missy said this later in an interview. There was a rumor going around where people said that Reena had slept with Missy's boyfriend at the time. And I really wasn't even sure if I wanted to share that detail at all, because this girl was just so lost. She was so lost. But this was a culminating moment where every single person that kind of had protected her in the group had decided to turn on her over just some petty high school shit. You know, so Kelly is super protective of Nicole, and Nicole is mad at Reena because Reena has made these calls. And then Missy, who said this later in an interview, is claiming that Reena had some sort of relation with her boyfriend. And so everyone just, completely turned. But the other thing is too, these kids were all partying, drinking. They were being bad. They were cheating on each other. They were talking to her. They were doing all sorts of mess. But for some reason, all eyes were on Reena. And I really want to highlight that for a minute, because can you imagine how messy this friend group is? Do you really think, like, no matter how bad some of the things that you might have think Reena did when she was a lost 14-year-old girl may be, do you really, truly think that Reena was the only one that was doing stuff astray? Or do you think all eyes were on her because she was an outsider? She was easy to pick on. She was easy to hate. And it's easy to sit here and judge a 14-year-old girl who's trying to figure her way out in the world and do things that feel good because she wants to feel important and wants to feel like she belongs. But think about all the dumb stuff that you did when you were a kid. It happens. It really happens. So this is just a really dramatic time where everybody is just talking crap on Reena. She is public enemy number one. And guess who's eating this up? Kelly Ellard. She loves it. Nicole's, quote, best friend. And Kelly strikes me as the type of person that really plays both sides. And any time that Nicole is upset or angry with Reena, Kelly is just stoking the flames because she loves hearing people hate a person that she hates. And so Kelly is actually the one that comes up with the plan. And she says, well, we should teach Reena a lesson. So on November 14th, 1997, Reena once again had decided to go back home, have a nice home cooked meal, go see her parents, like just get away from the foster home and the drama and everything going on. And while she's home, she gets a call from the girls at Shoreline High School. And Reena's in junior high at the time. So the high school girl's calling, like all of her little friends saying, ooh, come out to a party. Like in her head, I'm invited. I have to go. I have to go. And her mom is asking her not to go. She's like, Reena, it's cold out. Like, come on, you're finally home. You can go out and see your friends tomorrow. We don't care. It's fine. Just come on, just stay in tonight. And Reena does not care. She's like, I'm invited. I gotta go. When Reena arrives, there is a group of like 30 to 50 kids just kind of like all hanging out, drinking, smoking, whatever, all the bad kids as usual. But the police show up and they break up the party. And so all the kids disperse into different places. Now, there were kind of rumors going around tonight that somebody was going to get beat up. Something was going to happen. And Reena hears this, and knowing everything that's going on with her friend group behind the scenes, there's a feeling of uneasiness, but she's like, I was invited out tonight. They know me. Everyone seems fine. Everyone's talking to me. Everybody's smiling at me. Like things should be okay, right? And when the party breaks up and the kids go to different places, some of them go to this thing called Craigflower Bridge. And this is where Reena starts to go, something is kind of off. And people said that she seemed more reluctant, more hesitant, like maybe it was time to go. At one point, Reena steps away to use a phone and call her mom to say that she'll be home in an hour. And when the other girls hear this, they're like, well, okay, we need to move. We need to move with the plan. So they come up to her, they link arms with her on either side, and it's very aggressive. And they kind of forced her down this hill under the bridge. And they say, come on, Reena, let's go. Let's go. And they get down to the bottom of the hill and they're under the bridge and everyone's surrounding her. Everyone's looking right at her. Everyone knows exactly what's about to happen. Witnesses said that Nicole was standing there smoking a cigarette and started calling Reena out about talking shit about her. Reena stands her ground and is like, yeah, so what? Like, you're a bitch. You're a bitch. Like, I think she knows what's going on at this point. And she's like, okay, well, if I'm going to go out, I'm going to go out. I'm not going to like go out. Like, if you guys are about to jump me, I'm not about to sit here and like beg you not to. She was like, let's go. So she tells Nicole that she's a bitch. And to that, Nicole takes her cigarette and puts it out on her face, and Reena pushes her, and the fight starts. But it's not a fight. It is a complete beating. 7 girls all gang up on Reena, and they start punching and kicking and hitting her, trying to like light her hair on fire, like throwing cigarettes out on her. Like they are all kicking and punching at full force. These girls are brutal. And guess who else is there? 5'5" Warren Glowski. He's there too. I mean, this was a moment where they bonded over beating up Reena Virk. They really did. They were showing each other how hardcore they could be. They were letting out their anger about their lives. They were seeing her as someone that, quote, deserved it. And they had absolutely no mercy. They didn't care. They were enabling each other with every hit and every kick. And I mean, when you think about it, you can throw a punch and a kick back and forth so fast. And this is happening to Reena with 7 different people. The other thing is too, man, I mean, like it was Nicole, it was Kelly, it was Missy. But everybody else starts joining in too because they're like, well, I don't want to seem left out. I don't want to seem like I'm not cool. Well, yeah, let's do this together. Let's build this bond together. And they beat her and they hit her and they spit on her until she is on the ground bleeding and crying. And one girl actually interjects after about 2 minutes of this beating and she says, okay, that's enough. That's enough. And Reena can barely get up. She's humiliated. She's severely injured. And she probably doesn't want to get up because it's like, what if they start again? Now, something else about Warren too, this little weirdo who was under the bridge with all these girls, beating up a girl that he didn't even know. He didn't even know Reena like that. See, Warren was in a gang, and part of his gang initiation was to get beat up. And so I almost feel like that's an experience that he remembered, and he thought like, oh, this is part of life. Well, now I get to beat somebody else up the way that I was beat up. He didn't even know Reena. He was just there to watch and participate. So Nicole feels like she's gotten her proper revenge, and she and the rest of the group leave. Dude, can I also just say, like, kids get into fights sometimes. There's fights in high school all the time. This was insane. I have never seen or heard of before just 7 kids jumping on top of someone that they barely know and bonding together by brutally beating them. And girls, this is abnormal, okay? It really, truly is. And so the group of girls leave. But for some reason, Kelly Ellard, the one that was watching this all happen excitedly with the sadistic grin on her face, she and Warren, the guy that doesn't even know Reena, they kind of like stick around a little. And Kelly goes to Warren and is like, hey, I want to go back and make sure that Reena doesn't talk. I want to make sure that she's sorry. Reena had actually gotten up at this point and walked a little bit away. And Kelly Ellard chases her down and is like, hey, you're not going to rat us out. Like, hey, did you learn something? Just whatever bullshit she's going to say, right? And let me just be clear. There was no answer that Reena could have given Kelly Ellard that would have appeased her. There was none. Kelly enjoyed the fight. She enjoyed the brutality of it, and she wasn't done. So Reena's trying to get away from her, and Kelly continues to follow her more and more aggressively, and she jumps on her, and she hits her again. She starts to hit her. She starts to kick her even harder. It's like Kelly is so blinded by jealousy of the friendship between Reena and Nicole, even though it was on the rocks, rage, fear maybe of her talking, just so many emotions at once. She just keeps hitting her and hitting her. Warren told this to the police later. He actually saw, and this is crazy, at one point when Reena was down, Kelly karate chopped Reena in the throat hard. I mean, just full force when the girl was already down and barely breathing. And then Kelly asked Warren to help her. She said that she needed Warren to help her drag Reena's body into the water. And Warren does. Reena is still alive, but unconscious. And Kelly lights up a cigarette. She holds Reena's face underwater. And she sat there and she smoked a cigarette while she drowned Reena. Reena could not get up. She couldn't move. She couldn't fight back. She could not do anything. Her injuries sustained, they would later say, were that of a car crash. That's how badly these children beat her. She couldn't do anything. And Kelly sat there, cigarette in mouth, holding this 14-year-old girl's head underwater because she was an angry girl. And that to me is so terrifying. That is so incredibly terrifying. It was just sheer bloodlust. And here is where Reena dies. Reena would have survived being beaten up by all those kids. She probably would have maybe left foster care, maybe transferred schools, maybe gone back to the school anyways. But Kelly Ellard went back and in a fit of fury, she just drowned her underwater. Now back at home, Reena's mother is very concerned because she told her that she would be back home in an hour. She never came home. She waits because, Reena had always been kind of like a rebellious teen, and she probably felt like the police wouldn't take it too seriously. But the next morning, she's still not home, and so she calls them on November 15th. Now, while Reena's mother is talking to the police and, setting up this missing persons investigation, the 3 girls, Kelly Ellard, Missy Pleach, and Nicole Cook, they go back to the bridge to collect any evidence. Now, I'm not sure at what point Kelly told the other girls that she killed Reena, But Kelly, over the next couple of days, did tell other people. So even though I am unclear whether she had told them the night before or not, it seemed like Kelly was bragging when she told people how she killed Reena, because she mentioned the cigarette. She said, I smoked a whole cigarette while I drowned her. She told people this. So it is just kind of my suspicion that she told Missy and Nicole the day of the murders, the night that she had killed her, because they went back the next day to clean up any evidence. And I don't think you go and clean up evidence if it's just like a fight or something. I think that they all three knew that something bigger had happened. So they go look for any stuff that, you know, could be Reena's, anything left around that connected them to it. And they all made a pact that none of them would talk. They said, we are bonded, we are family, we're always going to be there for each other. Nobody fucking say anything. And everything's quiet for a few days until November 19th, when word gets out from some other girls at the foster home that somebody may have killed this girl in the river. Because Kelly was telling everybody. She wanted her street cred for it. She wanted her points. That's part of the reason why she did it. That's part of the reason why all these girls beat up Reena. She was a tool for them to all show each other how hardcore they were. And Kelly was like, oh yeah? Well, I'm the fucking toughest, because guess what I did? And I smoked a cigarette while I did it. That's why she told everybody. So these other two girls in the foster home, they were like, we need to go to the police. And they did. They told police that there were rumors that a girl was murdered and Kelly Ellard was involved. Now, still, police don't find any physical evidence. They don't find a body. It's not really a murder investigation yet. It's just rumors. Now, Kelly starts to get paranoid. And can I just say, I don't know what Kelly was expecting. Like, she expected the other kids to be like, oh my God, wow, you're so fucking hardcore. Like, I want to be friends with you. Like, no, bitch. If you killed somebody, you're the last person I want to be associated with. I want to be friends with, that I want to be seen with, heard with, smell. I don't want anything to do with you. But like, Kelly had this like twisted image in her head that she was cool because she killed somebody. So she starts to get a little paranoid because now it's real. This isn't just for street cred. Like, the police are looking for her. And finally, they take her in for questioning on November 21st. The police begin to round up a bunch of teenagers that were supposedly involved the night that Reena went missing. And it is absolute pandemonium at the police station. They've got all these kids in there. The kids that have their parents in the hometown, they're showing up. They want their kids released. And here's a very interesting detail. She really did this. Nicole, this is so weird. Nicole, like, very confidently, like, has her head up and she's like, I want an attorney. I want John Gotti's lawyer. She was like obsessed with John Gotti for some reason. He was like a mafia boss in New York City, kind of. And like, she actually said this, like, I'm involved in a murder case. I want John Gotti's lawyer. And they were like, okay, like, let's have a fucking seat, sister. So Kelly Ellard, the girl that actually killed Reena, but they don't know it yet, she gets interviewed by the sergeant, and Kelly's mom is there. So I don't know what happened, blah, 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 blah. Like, they really do believe that Kelly is like this good girl. But like, dude, Kelly is an angry girl. She is an angry, angry girl. I mean, it's written all over her face, okay? This girl does not have just like normal teenage girl problems. So she's giving the police mixed reaction. She's kind of going from like telling them what happened and then acting annoyed that she's being questioned and then acting afraid and then acting irritated and angry again and defensive. She's just like swirling all over the place. Now, here's some actual lines from this initial investigation. One of the officers said, "How can I make you understand that this is a murder investigation of a 14-year-old girl?" And Kelly goes, ugh, look, I pushed her. I just gave her a little shove like that. That's all I know. This is so unfair. I didn't kill her. She could have like fallen or something. And then Kelly says, I'm very pissed off right now because I didn't do anything. And then she started to kind of fake cry. Just based on everyone's demeanor, the police really start to suspect Warren and Kelly are more involved than they claim, because they were the ones that were just the most all over the place out of everybody. Like, they really knew something. And then also all of the rumors were about Kelly and Warren. And then one of the police officers overhears a conversation that Warren is having on the phone with his dad. And Warren said, I made a mistake, a big mistake. I really fucked up. I am fucked for the rest of my life. I can't get myself out of this shit. So, the police officer, Sergeant Brown, he's thinking, why would you say that if you didn't do something extremely damaging? Now, out of all of the kids, their eyes are still on Warren and Kelly. And on November 22nd, Kelly Ellard is formally charged, but she starts to just make it seem like the police are just picking on her. Like, out of everybody, Kelly's the victim, and they've just selected her to pin this all on her. And one of the officers said that Kelly even started talking about like, oh my God, I'm not going to be home for the holidays. Like, everything was very self-centered. And he said like some of the things that she would say would actually make him physically sick, as though this girl wasn't murdered. And it was always just a rumor until on November 22nd, police found Reena's body about a kilometer from where they said that the beating had occurred. They conducted an autopsy, and her body was so bruised and her brain was so swollen that they said it was consistent with an extreme car accident. She was stomped, she was severely beaten to the point that her brain had expanded, but her actual cause of death was drowning. The coroner ruled that her final cause of death was drowning, but they also said that most likely without medical attention, Reena would have died from her injuries regardless because they were so bad. Now, you and I both know what happened after the other kids left the bridge, but the police don't know. So this autopsy coming back that she was still alive when she drowned is groundbreaking, and they want to know what Kelly Ellard knows. So when the autopsy comes back, the police are honestly doing their due diligence. It took them about 7 days to really piece everything together, and they started arresting all these kids. They arrested 8 different kids, and they raided their homes. And when they raided their homes, they found something really interesting. All these kids from Canada were obsessed with gang mentality. These were all kids, but they were super obsessed with like rap music, sex, drugs, gangs, violence, all of that. They had a code that they were living by, and they really genuinely believed that they were like in a gang. They were emulating the Bloods and the Crips. They had all these posters of like West Coast stuff on the wall. I mean, that's also why Nicole said something about like, I want John Gotti's lawyer. Like they thought that they were living this gangster lifestyle, and this was all a part of it. These were their idols. And during the 90s, there was kind of gang-related imagery everywhere. I mean, of course, there was like, the West Coast, East Coast feud, but then there's also movies like Pulp Fiction or like Goodfellas that really glorified, the mafia and gang violence and stuff. And these kids were just eating up that imagery, like almost as though it was going to save them. And I mean, Kelly Ellard just fell fully into it. She thought she was a gangster. So the trial against all the girls begins on February 9th, 1998. 3 teenage girls pled guilty to charges of assault causing bodily harm, and 3 other teenage girls go to trial on charges of aggravated assault. Now, Kelly had been acting innocent this whole time, saying the cops were picking on her. There were so many people involved, but Missy turns on her hard. And I mean, as she should, even though Missy was involved. And Missy is like, actually, Kelly struck the most blows when we all ganged up on her too. Like, Kelly was enjoying this to the point that it kind of like creeped other people out because she just kept going. Now, Kelly's lawyers tried to get her charged in youth court. But luckily they overturn it because of the brutality of the crime, and she goes to court for second-degree murder. It is a brutal trial. The prosecutors paint a picture that she was the most aggressive, she was the most brutal, she was the most involved, she organized it all. And then Kelly's defense tries to say that this is just a big conspiracy against her because all of the kids were involved and they had to pick one, and it was Kelly. But it doesn't work. Kelly is convicted of second-degree murder, and because of how serious this crime is, she's given life in prison, even at just 17 years old. Now, Warren was also found guilty of second-degree murder because he was there during the actual killing, and he did nothing. He also gets served life in prison. Oh, and while this is happening, Reena's parents aren't done. They start serving the lawsuits galore. They're like, you're going to jail, you're going to jail, you're going to pay, you're going to pay, you're going to pay. My daughter will not go down in vain. They sue the teenagers, they sue the parents involved, they sue the government. Reena's dad actually said, society doesn't make people take responsibility for their actions. The lawsuits are one way to make them responsible. So for some reason, a couple years later, in 2001, Kelly is granted an appeal. The Canadian courts order a new trial for Kelly because they said something was messed up with the witness statements and she basically, quote, had an unfair trial. Well, the public was incredibly upset by this. I mean, this was a huge case. Teenage girls beating up another teenage girl and then one decides to drown her. Like, everybody was dialed in on this one. And when news got out that Kelly Ellard might be getting out, people wrote in. They wrote in long letters expressing their disapproval that they did not want that girl out. Kelly had a history of violence. Reena was not the only person that she beat up. She had actually later gone on to beat up an old woman in the park. That's right. While pending her appeal, she was out on bail and she beat up a 50-year-old lady in a park. So combined with the angry public letters and Kelly Ellard's actions, because she just is prone to violence and apparently can't contain herself, she's back in jail where she belongs. So her second trial begins June of 2004. And now, Missy Pleach is an interesting character because her guilt builds more and more and more and more over the years about what happened to Reena. She was the person that was actually the closest with her through all of this. I completely understand why she feels heavily responsible for what happened to her. So once again, Missy Pleach testifies and gives even more information about Kelly. She said that at one point, Kelly told them, I killed her and Warren just sat there and watched and he didn't help me. Like, once again, just gloating over how hardcore she is. Now, in this trial, Warren also takes the stand and he testifies that he saw Kelly drown Reena. Apparently he didn't really come out and as heavily say this in previous trials, but like I said, I think the guilt is weighing in on these kids. This like gangster mentality or this pact that they thought they had, we're blood, we're family. It's kind of wearing off and like this is some serious shit now. We're in court. And so Warren tells the courts, like, yeah, this is not a conspiracy against Kelly. I saw her do it. Despite all of the witness testimony, Kelly still sticks to her story that she didn't kill Reena. She said that she just hit her and everyone's conspiring against her. One paper quotes her as saying, I'm obviously going to be convicted. You got what you want. My life is ruined. Once again, it goes back to that officer saying that, the statements she was making were kind of sick in a way because they were just so self-serving and so unaware of what she had done. And now, truly unbelievably, the jurors deadlock and it's declared a mistrial. Somehow, Kelly has bought herself more time. Now, the final trial happens in 2005. And like I said, everything is unraveling. Every trial, people are telling more and more and more. And now this time, it's not Missy that's overrun with guilt. It's Warren. And he's just going and going and going. He realizes that it's been 7 years since they killed Reena. And if they want Kelly Ellard to go away, he needs to be honest. He needs to tell everything that happened from A to Z. And he does. Well, Kelly's attorneys try to attack his argument, say he's a liar, he's uncredible, blah, 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 blah. But in the end, finally, the jurors believe it. And they believe that Kelly is a danger to society. And they convict her of second-degree murder. So finally, on July 7th, 2005, Kelly is sentenced to life in prison for what the judge says is a senseless and remorseless crime. Kelly keeps trying to appeal multiple times, and crazily enough, one of her appeals is accepted and she's out on day parole. Now, she was 15 at the time that the crime happened, but to me, she is truly, genuinely a danger to society. The fact they let her out on bail for 2 seconds and she beat somebody up is it's insanity. So yeah, she's granted day parole in 2017. And if you didn't know, it's kind of like a conditional parole where prisoners are allowed to go out during the daytime. Like maybe they're let out at like 8 or 9 or something in the morning, and then they have to return to jail at night. So from 2017 to 2020, she was given day parole. She changed her name so that she could try to live a little bit of a normal life because everybody knew who she was. Everybody knew her name, but I'm sure a lot of people know her face too. She now is the mother of 2 children, and she tries to stay away from everything that happened. I think Kelly is still the same angry girl that takes absolutely no accountability for what she did. But the question for me, whenever I do Sinister, is, why did this happen? There's still question marks for me. I'm sure there's question marks for you. But overall, I think that Kelly Ellard was a sadistic, angry person who enjoyed seeing pain inflicted on others, and she felt power when she was the one causing the pain. After Reena's murder, her parents went on to give countless speeches about anti-bullying, about teenage behaviors, just a lot of educating about why this happened to Reena and how to help prevent it. And then on the other hand, Kelly Ellard's family felt a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment, but overall, they decided to still support Kelly.